welcome to the Indie Author Showcase, the podcast by indie authors for indie authors. I am your host, multi-award-winning author Chad Robert Morgan, and we've been off for a couple of weeks. Let's start with 2 weeks ago we had Creep I.E. Aftermath, so I was busy vending, and we'll get to Creep I.E. Aftermath in a bit. The week after, I did actually record a podcast, but it was a crazy day on Thursday. We almost fell for a scammer who called impersonating my son, saying he was in an accident, that his nose was broken, and he was in the county jail. They gave me a 1-800 number to call. They were asking for a case number, then they transferred me to another guy. So, this was pretty intricate. And, I'm hearing what sounds like my son, because these scammers are getting really clever. They will go so far as to get clips of you from social media and mimic your voice using AI. So it sounds like the person you are thinking you're talking to. Fortunately, and they started by calling my mother, who's old, infirm, and not the sharpest knife in the drawer. So she bought it hook, line, and sinker, and she brought it to me. And then just like, Alex is on the phone, and he's hurt, and he's in a... And so I get the phone, and I'm hearing a very distraught, crying Alex, with finger quotes for those who are listening to the podcast. So I'm heading out to the Orange County jail. I think the scammers let me off the hook for one or two reasons. One, they handed the phone from an old woman who was extremely gullible to me, who honestly is still gullible, but I'm not stupid, right? I've had a couple of scammers get me on the hook, but I tend to figure it out by the time it gets to the point when they're wanting me to transfer money. I'm like, wait a minute, this ain't right. I'm gullible, but I'm not stupid. So either they're like, okay, this guy actually has half a brain, he's asking too many questions, let's cut him loose. Or I basically said, yeah, I'm fucking broke. Because they were like wanting $8,000 for bail. And I'm like, I don't have $8,000. Well, how much do you have? Like $80, It's like, what? So either, or a combination of the two, right? They're like, okay, this guy doesn't have any money for us to steal, so cut him loose. Or this guy is asking too many questions, cut him loose. Or it just they knew this scam was going south on them for one reason or another, and they're like, okay, meet us at the jail. Because before they're like, no, you can't meet us at the jail, and everything. Finally, it's just meet us at the jail. And I was talking to the cops. It's like, what was their end game on this? And they're like, they probably figured out they weren't going to get you, and so they're like, they figured you would figure it out by the time you got to jail, and there was nobody there, that your son wasn't there or anything like that. So please be careful out there. It has nothing to do with indie authors, nothing to do with writing. This is just a public service announcement. Please be careful. With my family, we've introduced a password. So if I get somebody calling me pretending to be my son, I can ask him to verify his identity and say, what's the password? So, it's pretty scary, because I was talking to the cops, and the Orange County Sheriff's like, yeah, there's nothing we can do. It says, technically, you did not give them any money, so technically it's not a crime. I'm like, how can trying to con me, pretending to be the Orange County Sheriff's Department, not be a crime? And they're like, they're probably not even in this country. What are we supposed to do? It's like, we're not the FBI. We can't go over to Mexico or Pakistan or wherever the hell these people are, China or Canada or Utah. There's no idea where these people are. They could be in another state. They could be in another country. There's no clue, right? There was no accent You know, there was no tell that suggests they were one place or another. But they could have been calling from anywhere, right? And they're like, what do you want us to do? What can we do? There's nothing we can do. And even if there was something we could do, it's not a crime yet because you didn't fall for it. The police officers tell me that they actually tried to scam him, calling saying that they were his son, and he was like in Tijuana or something like that, and he knew where his son was, and he wasn't falling for it. And he turned around, got off the phone, and was like, "Yeah, you're still over in San Francisco or wherever." And, yeah, Dad. Okay. So rule number one: as a family, communicate. Make sure you know where everybody is. Okay. So if somebody calls and says that they're in a Tijuana jail, and you know that your son or your daughter or your husband or whatever is in Colorado, yeah, no, that ain't gonna add up, right? That's not right. That's point one. Point two is introduce like two-factor authentication, right? Have a password. So it's like, hey, this is your son, and I was like, okay, what's the password? I won't tell you what ours is, but my son came up with it, so I guarantee that no scammer is going to come up with that password. Unless the scammer is also a 17-year-old boy with a sick sense of humor. So, yeah, again, public sector's not, but I was dealing with that. And then I tried to do a quick podcast, but at that point everybody was home and they were interrupting, and I had to constantly cut and restart. And so the whole podcast basically came out kind of half-assed. And I'm like, you know what? I'm just going to take a bye week, right? Granted, this is not the highest, this is not the Joe Rogan show, you know. This is not the highest quality production values in the world. But you at least deserve me putting in my best effort, you know. So I was like, yeah, no, this just was rushed. It was crap. It was like, no, screw it. I'll just take a bye week. All three of my viewers will be patient enough to wait another week. That sort of thing. It's like, it's not that big of a deal. So that's why there wasn't one last week. The week before, again, we were at Creep I.E. Aftermath, which even the showrunners admitted was a bit of a slow show for them. I wasn't too worried. Saturday I did quite well. Friday was slow. Still healing. Friday was slow. Sunday was slow. That's typical of Creep I.E. that I found. You're going to do all your business on Saturday. All of Saturday and the first part of Sunday is usually where you do your business. And the end of Sunday dies off, and Friday is always slow, right? So Saturday I did gangbusters. I did more than half my sales Saturday alone. I had a projection of what I was going to earn, and I was on the low end of my projection, but I was still within my projection. So I was not too terribly disappointed, and not too terribly surprised, because again, the economy is in a downturn. We're seeing this across the board, not just Creep I.E. Aftermath. Monsterpalooza really bucked the trend, because Monsterpalooza was swamped. That was the first convention since Creep I.E. that actually did very, very well. A lot of these other conventions have been really kind of meager performances, and again, I blame the economy for a lot of it. But yeah, even the showrunners, like, they sent out an email saying, yeah, sorry, because we have to book the day. We booked the weekend like about a year in advance, and then other people booked their things, and they started to line up with our dates, and it was just an unfortunate thing. I think they also had some major celebrities cancel. As we all know, the big draw of going to these conventions is meeting the celebrities. The bigger the celebrities, the bigger the draw. And then after they see the celebrities, and they check out the vendors, and that's where we make. So they're not coming to meet me. They're coming to meet like Sam Jones, right, who was right behind me over. Sam Jones played Flash Gordon in the 70s. They're coming to meet Frank Grillo, who's right now playing Rick Flag Sr. in the DCU. They're not coming to see me, right? They did not have. They had some good celebrities at Creep I.E. I don't want to shit on them too much here, but they didn't have like really like in February they have already announced they're going to have Bruce Campbell. Now that is a big get. That's a big celebrity. They didn't have anybody quite that big for Aftermath, so I think that hurt them, and then the economy hurt them, and then other things happening to line up at the same date also hurt them. So it was just kind of a perfect storm. So we were competing to get the free booth, which is something that Creep I.E. does every convention, and I think it's a brilliant marketing plan. I don't know why everybody else doesn't crib that, right? Every vendor has a promo code, and so we go out there promoting the booth, promoting the show, and the vendor whose promo code is used the most wins. And this year, it was won by our friends over at Diabolic. So they were actually a little disappointed, right? Because they usually just get a table. So Creep I.E. is way more affordable than, say, Monsterpalooza. But they don't have tables, right? It's just full booths. So the full booth is cheaper, but they're used to buying the table, which is even cheaper still. So for them, this was a bigger cost. For me, it was a lower cost because I'm used to the full booth price, which is way higher. So it's all about perspective. But for them, it was a bigger investment. And that combined with the lackluster performance, they were not happy when I talked to them. And but I'm like, hey, but you won the free booth, and they're like, well, there is that. So I'm hoping that when they come back in February, because again, they got the booth for free, so that should make up for their perceived loss in 2 weeks ago. That they will see what Creep I.E. can really do. Because again, I mean, Aftermath is always the slower of the two anyway, right? That's just typical. And I'm hoping that when they do Creep I.E. in February, they're going to see, the at its fullest glory, and then be impressed by it, and then hopefully that will improve their situation. Because I'm looking forward to February. I'm looking forward to Creep I.E. in February. Our next convention is going to be, well, before I do that, let me back up and tell you a few more things about what happened at Creep I.E. We did have the new bags, right? So a while ago, we switched these green plastic bags because they were way cheaper, and it had the green bags with the SIP logo in black. And we decided to play on something that we had been trying out at the booth, and we put on the back, I was brave enough to buy a book from Spectral Inc. How about you? And then we had the cat monster on there. And that went over really well. People liked those bags. And we were 2 booths back from our friend Scott Harper, and he was like, yeah, I'm seeing a lot of green bags. Which was, I mean, and that does double duty, because first of all, it's brand awareness, because you're getting the bag out there. People were really digging the whole playful, I was brave enough to buy a book and everything like that. But also, like, Scott was seeing those green bags all over the place. It was a nice big visual identifier that, yeah, somebody's doing some business over here. Maybe you should go check it out. So that was very helpful. I did try one thing where I was trying to set up an iPad. I wanted to see if I can get people to do like testimonials, like they were going, I bought this. Nobody wanted to do that. Nobody wanted to go on camera. I killed that real quick. I mean, I was like 0-3, first I'm like, and everybody was like, no. I'm like, okay, yeah, all right, this isn't going to work. Which is a shame, because I thought that would have been really fun to have that on Instagram, all these people showing up the bag, but nobody was comfortable doing that, so I'm like, okay, kill that. Did have a couple of repeat business, which was really nice, where they came up, they saw the new book, and they grabbed it and says, I want this. Like, they didn't even read the back of the book. They just saw it and said, I want this. I read this other book of yours. It was really good. I want the next one. I had one guy come up at Sunday, just walked up and shook my hand. And I was like, I said, yeah, I got this Monday. I've already read it. It was fantastic. Those are the kind of things that keep me doing this. I mean, I have fans. I mean, I have like 3, but I have fans, And if I keep doing it long enough, maybe next convention I'll have 4, and then the next convention I'll have 5. And, if I do this long enough, I might even break double digits. You never know. But point is that there are people out there, albeit a handful, that like my work. And that motivation keeps me going, keeps me trying to do this. And yeah, it's an ego boost. But I mean, when you're doing something creative like this, when you're creating art or you're creating books or something like that, you're putting it out for the world, and you want to know what the world thinks of it. And if the world doesn't like it, you have to go and ask yourself, why not? What did I do wrong? Am I just not finding the right, am I talking to a different group of people, or am I doing something wrong, or do I need to improve my craft? So it's really good to get that kind of external validation. And again, when you're struggling to pay the bills, when you're working 2 jobs, when even your own family's going like, maybe you should quit doing these conventions, and then you get somebody that just comes up and says, oh, you got a new one out, I want it. I love the last one. That just, I can't tell you how important that is to keep you going. The only other thing that would have been better, maybe not better, but the only other thing that you can do that is probably as good, let's put it that way, is leaving a review on Amazon, on Goodreads. We're all fed by algorithms these days. So I have people at conventions tell me how much they love the book. I look on Amazon, I have very meager number of reviews. Most of my reviews are really good. I've gotten a couple of bad ones, but they're usually the exception, not the rule. But you got to feed the algorithm. And so, yeah, if you read a book, whether it's mine or any of the other books from this podcast, or anybody's book for that matter, go on Amazon, go on Goodreads, leave a 5-star review, post it on Instagram or TikTok or Twitter or whatever, saying, yeah, I like this book. And yes, I still call it Twitter. Fuck X. Tell the world that you liked it. Okay, if you didn't like it, don't say anything. Don't kick somebody when they're down. If it was a bad book, it's best just to keep your mouth shut. But if you like it, tell the world. That really would help out the indie author that you are appreciating. And it doesn't cost you nothing but like 5 minutes of your time to put a 5-star review and say, I like this, the character's really good, the ending was fantastic, bada bing, bada boom, enter. That's it. That's all you need to do. And just that little thing means so much to us as authors. So please, if you read one of our books, and again, not just mine, anybody's, right? you read Cynthia Diamond's book, or you read Josh Spiro's book, or Brandon McNulty's book, and you like it, leave a 5-star review. Let the world know. So, one thing that I was disappointed about at Creep I.E. Aftermath, other than the fact that I didn't sell my book to a Netflix executive for $1 million for the movie rights, which I always keep hoping for, is there weren't a lot of new indie authors. Now, there were several indie authors at Creep I.E. Aftermath, both in novels and in graphic novels, in comics. But with one exception, I knew them all. I've already met them. They've already been showcased on this podcast. I was hoping to come away with a nice big haul of new books to add to my TBR. You know, the one that I'm still trying to read through because I work nights now. I gotta get out of the habit of saying all the time. There's got to be an exercise or something like that to break that habit. There was one exception. There was a new comic book company that was debuting there at Creep I.E. Aftermath called Panic. And they had 2 different titles that they were showing. And I have them both. So we have Tama, and we have Black Diamond. Now, these are done by 2 different people, 2 different groups, 2 different authors, 2 different artists, but published by the same company, this new comic book company, Panic. As I've said before, reviewing comic books is always kind of a challenge, especially since right now I don't even have a graphic novel. I have just 2 individual issues, right? This is one of 6. This is one of 4, right? So I am just getting chapter 1 of these stories. And so I have to tell you whether or not it's good or not based on the first chapter. It's not a lot to go on. With that said, let's talk about Tama a little bit. Tama is about a virtual pet that is a bit psychotic. There's something wrong with its code. They even had these little like Pokemon-like cards for Tama, which is really cool. So somehow these virtual pets can affect things in the real world, and they tend to evolve a little like Pokemon, and then they go psycho and they start killing people. In the beginning of the episode, one of the people at the company where it's creating this, he's trying to contain them all. And then we meet our main protagonist, this young boy, who's apparently his father was working with this company or something like that, because he had some of this stuff in a box in the garage. And that's how he finds Tama. So one of these Pokemon-like creatures has gotten loose. And at first, he thinks it's really fun because Tama's really cute and everything like that. And then at the end of the first episode, Tama starts getting a little upset, and he kind of hulks out. And that's where we leave on that episode. With Black Diamond, we're at a ski resort, father and son. The son forgot his jacket, so he has to buy his son a new jacket. But they only have like girly colors, so he's like, well, you got to make do. Is either you wear the girly colors or you freeze. And he gets abducted. And then the father gets a phone call saying, yeah, we needed to abduct a girl. We thought we were abducting a girl. Since we got the wrong gender here, we're going to make you get the replacement, and then you can get your son back. So that way you're on the hook, right? That's the logic of the bad guys. If they just handed the boy back, then he could still go to police, rat him out and everything like that. But he's like, but if you get his replacement, then you're culpable. And then we got protection because we know you're not going to sell yourself out to the police. So now he's on this kind of quest to save his son by kidnapping a young girl to replace him for whatever the sacrifice is that's happening. In terms of concept, I think Tama was more interesting, right? Black Diamond so far is, just a straight up abduction story. Now, the cover suggests that there's more coming. Cover's got this big old huge demon dude kind of thing. It's probably what's going to be summoned by the sacrifice that they none of this was in the first issue. Okay, so I'm guessing this guy's coming. So the story was more of a straight up Taken situation. I will say I think Black Diamond was better written. With Tama, I was struggling a little bit to connect with the main character. I didn't feel like I got a lot of depth with those characters. Whereas Black Diamond, they did a lot of character development in only a few pages, and it never got boring. Right? I thought Black Diamond was exceptionally well written. Because one of the complaints I get a lot when you're dealing with comics is like, because they only have a handful of pages to with a novel, you can write as many pages as you want. With a comic, you're very limited. You have to get at least a sliver of the story between page 1 and 24, or however many pages it is, right? It's a very fixed amount. And with Black Diamond, they did a lot of world building and character development in a very efficient amount of space. Where, again, with Tama, I thought was a more interesting story, but I didn't feel as connected with the main character. I mean, I think probably because they're juggling between two, right? You have the kid that found the Tama, and then you have the guy from the business that's trying to realize that it's gotten loose and trying to track him down. So it's kind of juggling between two protagonists back and forth, whereas Black Diamond, we're really focusing on one. That's probably where Black Diamond had its advantage. But I thought both stories were very interesting. Both stories were really good. Again, Tama was, I think, the better concept. Black Diamond was the better execution, in my opinion. But give it a shot. Let me know. And then again, I like both of them. I'm not trying to, lift one up and shit on the other. I'm just trying to tell you what I felt. I also like the art in Tama quite a bit better. Not that it was bad in Black Diamond, but they were going with a very muted sepia monotone style, which again is fine. There's nothing wrong with that. But Tama had all the bright, vibrant colors and everything like that, which I thought was more visually interesting. So I really enjoyed the art in Tama a bit better than in Black Diamond. But again, not that Black Diamond was wrong. It's just that was their style choice, and Tama, I just thought, had more fun with it. That's the other thing. But so those are the two entries from Panic. Get them in camera here. There we go. Black Diamond and Tama. So feel free to check them out. So that's pretty much it for this episode. I know we're only about 30 minutes in. I will say that our next show will be in October in Son of Monsterpalooza. I am really excited for that show because we're going to have Katie Seagal, the voice of Leela from Futurama, and we are going to have Tim Curry, the legendary Tim Curry, the original Pennywise Tim Curry, Dr. Frankenfurter, the sweet transvestite from Transsexual Transylvania, Tim Curry. And so many more. His voice acting credits alone would probably fill a Wikipedia page. I know he was Captain Hook in the Fox Peter Pan cartoon series. He was Dr. Savarius on the Gargoyles series. And that's just the two I can think of off the top of my head. So he was also the devil in Legend. I mean, the film credits go on and on and on. This guy was prolific back in his day. Um, Absolutely phenomenal actor, phenomenal body of work. And I am so excited. I hope, against hope, that I get a chance to actually meet him. What usually happens is I go and I set up the booth and I'm busy at the booth, and I never get a chance to talk to the celebrities. Once in a while, they might pass by and I get a glimpse. I'm like, oh, I saw Bruce Campbell walk by. That's usually about as much as I get. Creep I.E. Aftermath, I actually loaned my power to Sam Jones so he could watch a football game on his iPad or his MacBook, because it was slow even for him, right? So that's like one of the only other time I've actually talked to celebrities was when I was at Vanille's Vampire Weekend, which was so slow, and I was right across from Michael Ironside, who is the nicest damn guy you've ever met in your life. That guy was so nice. At one point, he had to go and he did this panel about his career, and the next day he comes back and I was like, "How'd the panel go?" And he kind of walks over and is like, "The problem is in my age, I can't remember things too well, you know, so I have to tell the truth. When you lie, you have to remember all those lies, and I can't keep track of it all, so I have to tell the truth. William Shatner is an asshole." Just... and I was like, okay. And I was like, what movie did you do with Shatner? And it's like, he told me, I don't even remember what it is. I had to IMDb it. No, just nicest guy. Right, and it's one of the few times I actually got to chat with the celebrities. So, I'm hoping against hope I get to talk to Tim Curry and Katie Seagal. There's going to be more celebrities there, but those are the two that talk to me. Right, those to me those are like wow. Right, like Billy Zane's going to be there. I've seen Billy Zane in a few movies. He's a great actor. Not dissing Billy Zane, but me personally, I'm not like, oh my God, Billy Zane. It's like, Tim Curry, on the other hand, we're not worthy. So, I mean, it's just, again, my personal taste. I'm not dissing anybody here. Those are the two I want to meet. Those are the two I'm excited about. So please come see me at Son of Monsterpalooza. Come see Tim Curry. Come see Katie Seagal. Hell, come see Billy Zane if or any other celebrities that are going to be there, because there will be quite a list. Monsterpalooza does, I think, attract probably some of the best celebrities of any of these conventions. Creep I.E. will do very well. Creep I.E. will surprise us sometimes. Like they had Billy D. Williams one year. I was like, right. But I think Monsterpalooza consistently gets these high caliber celebrities. They've had the Raimi brothers at Son of Monsterpalooza. They had pretty much the entire cast of Ash versus the Living Dead at Son of Monsterpalooza. So I mean, they I don't know what deal with Satan that guy made, but he's constantly getting, consistently getting some really impressive celebrity guests for Monsterpalooza and Son of Monsterpalooza. Creep I.E. does a good job, but and will at times do an exceptional job, but Monsterpalooza just, for whatever reason, consistently hits it out of the park. So yeah, just looking forward to that if you hadn't gotten that yet. So please see me in October. Our new books are coming out. We'll have Fear on stock. I did actually find I think a good trick to getting my books done at a reasonable time from Barnes & Noble Press. I usually print my books through Barnes & Noble Press because I like them. Last time I tried to get some from Amazon because Amazon's much quicker. And they didn't even make it to the house because when they shipped it to Amazon, yeah, oh, these are fucked. And they returned them. I never even saw them. And I got my money refunded, which was fine, except I had to go to Creep I.E. with only a few copies left of, I think, Last Right in hardcover and what else was I was low. I think Baby Eater paperback, I think, was the other thing I was really low on. And I almost sold out of that, and I almost sold out of Bloodlines, of Short Bites Volume 1, just because I didn't have a lot of stock. And Barnes & Noble usually does a better job, more reliable job, but they're so slow. But I think I found the trick to mitigating that, and that's break your order up into smaller chunks. Because now I have about 5 or 6 packages due, like all in the same day. So instead of one big order, right, I bought, 20 copies of Short Bites and then made that an order. 20 copies of the Baby Eater, made that an order. So that seems to be the way to go. So I'll have to remember to do that in the future. So anyway, I'm rambling. I'm going to get going. Next week, we are scheduled to interview Josh Spiro. His new book, Halloween Volume 2, is out now. And we will be discussing it, as well as some of the success he's had in marketing his book. I am definitely going to be taking notes because he has managed to, I don't want to spoil anything, but he's done some impressive marketing. And I definitely need a crib off of him because I am thoroughly jealous over what he was able to pull off. So that will be next week if it goes as scheduled. So please tune in, and we'll see you in October. And until then, keep on reading.